But Brandon, let's finish out our big board before we go into semifinal recaps and national championship previews on the college football side of things. I will let you go first, as I always have.
You're generous.
I'm a gracious host. I'm a gracious host, but this is where you come in. Give us your top 5 for our 1.0 NBA big board.
So at 5, I've got Mohamed Bamba from Texas. At 4, Trae Young from Oklahoma. At 3, Luka Doncic, international. At 2, DeAndre Ayton from Arizona. And at number 1, I've got Marvin Bagley III from El Duque.
And then my top 5, we'll go right into it like we always have. At number 5, I've got that same Michael Bagley III from Duke, the forward center. Then we've got number 4, I've also got, like you have, Trae Young, guard from Oklahoma. Then at 3, just like you did, Luka Doncic, guard from the international, his international player playing
Real
overseas.
Madrid, actually.
Real Madrid. Then number 2, Michael Porter Jr., forward from Missouri. And then at number 1, DeAndre Ayton, center, Arizona. And this is what I want to ask you. The first thing, Trae Young, like you said, hasn't really stopped. Had about, 30-some points and 14 assists against TCU this past Friday. Got 39 points, 14 assists, shot 83 from the line where he had 18 attempts, made 15 of them, went 6 of 14, that's 42, almost 43% from beyond the arc. However, only went 9 of 23 from the field total. What we just talked about Colin Sexton. Give me a little bit about Trae Young now that we can actually talk about him, because he's in our top 5.
We couldn't before. If we did, we would have been fired.
Yeah,
you would have fired us.
I would have fired myself. It would have been all Mark here. Mark would have been the only one.
Well, with Trae Young, you already said it. He has not stopped, and I think that when you look around the NCAA right now, and you look at all the different teams and all the players that they have on them. If you take a look at Oklahoma and you take Trae Young out of there, Oklahoma is an extremely different team. Extremely different team. Worse off. And when you're able to do that, you know you've got a really special player. I think that you can look at a lot of other teams. You can take a lot of other guys away. Like you can look at Duke. You can take a couple of guys away from Duke, and they're still going to be all right. But I truly believe that if you take Trae Young away from Oklahoma, Oklahoma is a significantly worse team, and they would perform as such. But with Trae Young, what he's able to do is he's a wonderful perimeter shooter. He is a great scorer. He's a very good passer, as you had mentioned before. But he's great with the basketball. He's crafty. I mean, he is really, really good being able to drive in the lane and being able to put up a shot there. He is an all-around, what I've seen so far, just great player. And I know that there are, when we talked about it before with Trae Young, when we just kind of focused on Trae Young, there were definitely things that you could say that he could improve on. These aren't necessarily things I'm saying that he can improve on, but he isn't extremely quick, but he does handle the ball well. His shot, kind of the angle where he's shooting, it's a little different than what we would see out of some other shooters. That's one of the things that we said when comparing him to Steph Curry. But right now, I there's nothing that I see that I look at Trae Young and I go, wow, there's this glaring hole in his game. I'm not seeing that, which is why I have him at number 4.
Here's the thing, and I want to bridge this into a greater discussion that I wanted to have with this top 5. There's a debate that I'm having in my head because. And everyone gave us crap for it, Brandon, before the Wichita State game.
You have a lot of debates in your head, don't you?
Yes, I do. A great game that we saw for especially Oklahoma against Wichita State when they took down at the time number 3, the Shockers from Wichita State. I remember watching that game going, wow, I can't believe this. I can't believe he did it. I thought that was the game that he would have a little bit of a slow up, but The thing I want to ask, and I know people are going to get mad when I say this, is I look at Trae Young and I look at Luka Doncic. And the thing that I wonder is the biggest negative that I see about Luka is that, and people said it the first time we brought him up on the fast break, was that, oh, he's not used to the size of the NBA and an NBA defender, and it's going to throw him through loops. And he's only an 18-year-old kid. He's going to be coming over playing against men, and I know he's playing against men in the EuroLeague right now. However, EuroLeague and NBA are completely different games. And my thought is there's a reason why EuroLeague players, especially the top ones, there's a reason why they don't stay in the EuroLeague and they eventually come over to the NBA, because the game's more elevated and the goal is to play in the NBA, NBA being a global game at this point. And this is going to be controversial because there are people that rightfully so believe that Luka Doncic could be the number one pick in the NBA draft. But my debate that I'm having in my head, you can throw Michael Porter Jr. into this as well, because although he's not a guard, he's the same, I would say he's the same kind of player, going to bring that scoring to a team. Is it right for maybe some people, let's say you had the choice between Trae Young and Luka Doncic, what would you say to the person? And I know Luka Doncic, bigger size, taller, he's 6'8" compared to 6'2" for Trae Young. If the person were to say, you know what, I'm going to go with the kid in Trae Young, who's already here, compared to so-and-so, in this case, Luka Doncic playing overseas at Real Madrid.
I think you're right in terms of it's a little different when you're over there in international, and then you come over here and you go to the NBA. But I think that it would be a slight to Doncic to say that, oh, just because you're over there, means we're gonna drop you a little bit because you're not over here in our in the system that we usually go. You go to college here, in the United States, and boom, you go to the NBA. I think that would be a slight to him. But I do think that it when you have. I mean, how many times have we talked about this, whether it's with college football or college basketball, and you're able to be on, the national stage playing here in front of fans, getting the popularity of scouts and drawing their attention, of scouts, of general managers, of owners, and you're right here, and it's so much easier, and you're getting that kind of big name presence as a lot of these guys are, the Marvin Bagleys, the Trae Youngs, all these types of guys. It's easier over here, so it's more convenient. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what Luka Doncic is doing. I don't take multiple trips, internationally throughout the year.
Going over to Spain, man, it's going to be a hefty thing for your passport and your airplane to keep going from Spain and back to do podcasts.
Yeah, it would be, which is why I'm not doing it. Yeah. But do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Is that you get the popularity over here, and there are more eyes on you over here overall. Because
the league you're going to, it's based here.
Exactly. And I know that the fans are not the ones that are drafting you, but the fans are some of the ones that I think are helping your popularity. They're helping to fuel you. They're helping the ratings of those games be better. They're giving a reason to watch those games because that's what they're talking about. The pundits here on all the different networks are talking about those guys and everything like that. The international players, they're kind of, I think, put to the back burner a lot of the times because they're not here. They're not here. They're not being talked about. They're not in the limelight and on the center stage.
Well, and the thing that I'm kind of thinking about right now is, first off, I do have the stats for Luka Doncic up right now, and I just want to, right now, and I know people are going to get mad that I'm doing this, but I'm going to do it anyways because it's my podcast, but Trae Young stats, Luka Doncic stats, and I know that it's not all about stats, but people like stats, and that's why I'm going to bring this up. Doncic right now, 16.6 points per game over in EuroLeague. Trae Young, 29 points per game. Looking at the assists, 'cause that's one of the things facilitators for both these guys. You've got 4.7 assists per game for Doncic. You've got 10.7 for Trae Young. Then just looking at the percentages, both of them similar from the foul line, 84.8 for Doncic, 85.6. Woohoo, 1%. I'll call him even. It's a push right there with the numbers. However, Doncic is averaging 5 attempts, whereas Trae Young's averaging 9 attempts from the line. So he's going and getting 4 more than Doncic. Then you have the 2-point percentage, 61% compared to 47, Doncic being the 61, and 3.33% for Doncic, 41% right now for Trae Young. And the thing I want to throw out there, because someone's already said in the comment section, I get that the college game is different than the Euro League. I get that also one is taller than the other. Size is going to matter here, 6'8" compared to 6'2". I am just wondering in my head, maybe this is the same topic we got burned for before, and I'm not going to ask you this now. I'm just saying the thought came to my head of, will there be a day on our big board that if Trae Young continues to keep this up, that he's not 4 on our big board, that he's not 2 on our big board, that he's number 1 on our big board because he keeps putting up stats and just going over and over. Like I said, not going to ask you that question.
I wasn't going to answer.
But it did pop into my head. Guy I want to move on to is the one that I really wanted to have the international to college talk with, but it kind of just formed with Trae Young, Michael Porter Jr. Because the thing for me is that if Michael Porter Jr. right now is injured, and I'm looking at an article right now from the SB Nation where apparently there was a tweet that Dr. Rick Lemon, I think I said that name right, talking Michael Porter Jr. on Frank Casumano, again, hope I said that name right, radio show this morning. This was back from early December. I think he'll be back in the next 4 weeks, so in the next month. That was December 12th. So in the next 4 weeks, that's about in a week or two from where we are right now. And that's more than just a guess. What if Michael Porter Jr. comes back this year? I know I had him at 2. You had him outside the top 5. Do you think that is also helping Doncic's case, is that we don't have a guy like Michael Porter Jr. to compare him to because Porter Jr. has been injured this year?
It definitely could be. I think that's working. I think that's working in his favor. I think if at the same time though, it's going to be interesting when and if Michael Porter Jr. comes back. What level is he at? Mm-hmm. Because you said there that the hope that he would be back 4 weeks from December 12th. 100%, 90%. Where's he at? Is he back and he can play? But he's, you would hope that he's at 100% then. But what's he going to be able to contribute right away? Is it going to take him a little bit to get going? Again, he has not played, at all this season, and he's a freshman. So I think that it's going to be really interesting to see what he's able to do if he's able to come onto the basketball court this year. But that's not necessarily the question you asked me.
We'll get to that.
I think that what with him being out, it's opened the door for Luka for sure. I think that's definitely something that has to work in his favor. By how much? I don't know if it's a significant amount, but I think that it's definitely opened the door a little bit for him to get a little bit more recognition because, as much as when we talked before saying, is it easier for someone who's here? No one wants to watch Michael Porter Jr. on the bench, so they're going to look elsewhere.
The thing that worries me about Luka, and I'm throwing out there again, we've said this throughout the podcast, that you can't compare like players to other players as carbon copies. But the thing that, and this is a back of the mind thing, I remember you and I talking about this was way back in the archives. This was before the fast break was even a thing here, because Dave and I started it, did it for a couple weeks, then we stopped doing it. Then it didn't really pick up again until Sean came on and joined the team. But I remember us talking, what was this, 2015 NBA draft? When we used to do the mock drafts because the fast break wasn't here.
Oh, that was a good time.
And we used to talk about, do you remember a guy, Mario Hazonia? Remember that name?
Hazonia.
Overseas guy from Croatia. Another guy, top 5 guy, top 6 guy that we were like, oh, coming overseas could be great. Hasn't been what we expected for the Orlando Magic. Now, I'm not saying...
I wouldn't know, you had to watch the games.
I'm not saying that, hey, you know what? Luka's coming over from EuroLeague, coming over from International. It's going to be the same thing. However, that's just one thing in my head. That's just like a back-of-the-head worry because of the coming over. He could come over and be great. He could do that. But with Michael Porter Jr., I think it has helped him dramatically, because I think if Michael Porter Jr. is playing, of course it depends on how he's playing, but how I expect him to be and what teams say, if he was playing these games, there's a chance he could be number 1 on my big board, because I had him at 2, could be number 1 on mine and in the top 5 in yours. That's if he was playing. Now, the thing that's going to be interesting, next week, the 9th, so when we're recording the next podcast will be that 4 weeks from that comment about him coming back in the next 4 weeks. The interesting thing and the interesting debate will be, should he come back? Because I could see a double-sided coin. I could see the coin of sit out, don't play, worry about you. You're going to be drafted in the top 5, top 3 anyways. Just don't even play. However, like a guy we talked about earlier, Miles Bridges being a competitor, being a guy that wants to be out there for his team. I could see that on the other side of, yeah, you know what, get out there. You're a good player. Go win some games for your team. Help your team win, because the ultimate goal is to go out there and win a championship. Go out there and help the team get to March Madness and go through it. It just depends on which side are you on it, for yourself, draft stock, or for the team and helping them do great things and having a good season this year.
Yeah, I think that for Michael Porter Jr., you want to come back, you want to play, because you don't want to be that guy that was out the entire season and is having people guess that he's going to be good.
Yeah. Or
having people guess that say, you know what, we didn't get to see anything out of him, we're going to drop him, a little bit. I think he wants to be a guy who, if he can come out there and play, he's going to come out there and play and show what he has to offer outside of what everyone has already seen from him. So I think that if he's able to get out there on the floor and play, that's exactly what he's going to do.
Well, and also the thing that I was thinking about is don't pull a Josh Rosen. Don't pull the, well, I wanted to play, but the injury kept me out kind of a thing that Josh Rosen tried to do with his bowl game. Completely different situations, but that's what I just don't do that. If you're going to stay out with the injury, stay out. If you want to play, go ahead and play. Last thing I will ask you, and this is up to you. We are probably going to have a topic about this in greater detail, but this is the last thing I'll end it with. I had Marvin Bagley at 5. I had DeAndre Ayton at 1. You had Bagley at 1, Ayton at 2. Since both you and I had different number 1s, last thing we'll do, what made you put Marvin Bagley number 1 atop your big board?
I think right now Marvin Bagley, when you look at guys at his position, he is, he's solid. 6'11", he's got the size, he's got the frame.
Unless you poke him in the eye.
Well, that happens for a lot of people. They just go down. You poke him in the eye and boom,
I'm still upset
down.
we didn't get to see him that game because he got poked in the eye.
He's an aggressive rebounder. He can be a scorer. He's everything that I think that you'd be looking for in a big guy. Again, his size, and he's done well. He's such a playmaker for Duke. again, one of those types of things when I said about Trae Young, you take him out of a game, you take Trae Young out of a game, and Oklahoma is worse for wear then. I think that you do the same thing with Bagley and Duke. Of all players that you could take, he's the one you don't want to take away from that team right now, because I think you'd find a pretty good hole right there in the Duke starting lineup.
I'll be completely honest. Why I put Ayton number 1 over Bagley right now. First off, why I put Bagley at 5 is just because right now I'm kind of low on Bagley. And I look at guys like the guards, Trae Young, Doncic, even the injured Michael Porter, and it basically comes down to a question. If I'm drafting at 2, would I take him? No, I'll take Porter. If I'm at 3, would I take him? No, I'll take Doncic. If I'm at 4, would I take him? No, I'll take Trae Young. And the only reason why I have Ayton number 1 right now is just off of offense alone. Like, offensively, DeAndre Ayton is a monster and checks every single box that you want from an offensive center. The only thing I want to see, and this is how you keep that number 1 status, because like you said, this is number 1. Just because you have Bagley number 1, I have Ayton number 1, doesn't mean they're going to stay like that the whole way through. How do you keep that number 1? What do I want to see from DeAndre Ayton? Develop some more defensive skills. Become a shot blocker a little bit. Shot blocking is really the big one, but don't be a pushover down below. And I'm not saying he is, but don't be, it's like, man, he's great offensively, but he's a liability defensively. I don't want to see that. And to me, the big stat is shot blocking, because when we look at the NBA and we look at centers, what's the big stat we look at is not just how many points you put in when you get the opportunities, but like Anthony Davis, like he had 4 blocks in a game, and people are going nuts. Anthony Davis was a guy that didn't have to score in a second half of a national championship game, and his team still won. Now, I'm not saying I want Ayton to just quit scoring the ball and focus on defense, but just develop those defensive skills a little bit overall, and that's how I think he'll stay there at number 1. Any final thoughts?
I think for Bagley, for him to be able to stay at number 1 for me, he needs to develop a little bit more as an interior defender. He already does a pretty good job, defending on the exterior, on the perimeter. He needs to be able to do that, and then he also needs to be able to become a better scorer from outside of just, I think, right by the rim. He's able to get a lot of those easy buckets, but just to kind of work on that a little bit more, so you can become a more polished, I think, scorer is what I'd want to see from Bagley.
Well, this is where you guys come in. This finishes our big board for the week. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Also, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Blog Talk Radio, stay tuned this week. Actually, by the time this is on YouTube, let's see, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, by the time this is up, the first video of the mock draft, it should be the mock draft today or tomorrow, one of the 2 days, should be the first mock draft, so you get double dip NBA draft here on the podcast. Let us know what you guys think, though, down below in the comment section.